friends. This is the program Empire of Lies, where we discuss manipulation and disinformation in Russian media, famine, sanctions, and a global conspiracy, how Russian propaganda explains US policy. In Vladimir Solovyov's program, Western readers are presented with a condensed model of the world, where international politics is explained through global catastrophes, secret conspiracies, and radical decisions. The main motive is to present the United States not simply as Russia's adversary, but as a deliberate destroyer of the global economy, provoking famine, chaos, and war. This picture is presented as obvious. They know for sure. Then comes the emotional accusation. Trump and Congress are allegedly preparing a global famine. For Russian audiences, this word has a pronounced psychological effect, mass starvation as a deliberate policy. The use of the term underscores the main thesis. The West is not simply mistaken, it wants millions to die. A global conspiracy through sanctions. The narrative revolves around the idea of total US sanctions, 500% tariffs on all trade with Russia. Solovyov interprets them not as an instrument of economic pressure, but as an attempt to provoke global famine. The logic of the program is simple. Russia exports more wheat than the US. Russia is the world's largest supplier of fertilizer. Therefore, sanctions against Russia equals famine, revolutions, declining harvests, the deaths of millions. The picture is deliberately exaggerated. India, Brazil, Mexico, China, Africa, all are listed as victims of American policy. The data is simplified or taken out of context, but what matters is not the fact, but the effect. The Western elite wants 5 billion people to starve. This is a classic propaganda ploy, equating Western sanctions with intentional mass genocide. An American farmer as Trump's betrayer, Solovyov, constructs a paradoxical construct. The US itself depends on Russian fertilizers. Sanctions will hit American soybeans and corn. Farmers, Trump's base of supporters, will be ruined. Thus, the idea is presented that the US is acting against its own interests. This reinforces the domestic narrative. Western elites are irrational, malicious, and hostile to their own populations. They know for sure, please. Trump and the Satanic zoo called Congress have committed to a global famine. Now they're planning to pass a new law, new sanctions against Russia, 500% tariffs on all countries, on any trade with Russia. And what does that mean? It's asking the entire world to go to war, to revolution, to famine. Russia, which produces twice as much wheat as America, the world's leading wheat exporter, and that's just wheat, and Russia, which produces 60 million tons of fertilizer, 35% of the global total. Now everyone must give it up. What does that mean? India will lose a third of its fertilizer. Mexico will lose half. This means crop yields will decline, corn production will decline, and famine will follow. Even avocados will be hit hard. It's the favorite food of American hipsters. That's it. Prices will double. Ukraine as a US tool and a pretext for escalation. The rhetoric then abruptly shifts to the topic of Ukrainian armed forces strikes on Russian territory. This is presented as an escalation authorized by the US. American generals are choosing targets. They control the HIMARS. They are demanding the use of long-range missiles. Thus, any Ukrainian action is automatically declared to be American. This logical substitution is the foundation of the narrative. Ukraine does not exist as an independent actor. Any of its activities equals an attack by the US. Then comes the conclusion, which is the heart of the passage. There's only one way out: destroy. Wipe the banking system, the general staff, off the face of the earth. These are American generals. In other words, the call for an expansion of the war is justified as self-defense against the US, even if it concerns Ukrainian structures. the construction of an American strike as a justification for any Russian response. At the end, a direct threat is made. It will come back to hit the American generals. This thesis is intended to create in the audience a sense of Russia's inevitable and legitimate response to US actions. But it's important to note, this isn't a defensive argument, but a justification for the further expansion of the war, not only against Ukraine, but also potentially against American interests beyond its borders. Think, analyze, draw conclusions, and don't be fooled. This was the program Empire of Lies.